On October 25th, last Wednesday evening, an unexpected public aisle stress test dropped, allowing the entire community to freely explore some of the additions Update 7 is bringing in the near future. If you manage to enter the server, that is. One of those upcoming features, and probably the most desirable one, is the oh-so-anticipated Gateway, a brand new map that has been teased for many months at this point and promises to be a massive improvement from its predecessor. I had the opportunity to quickly explore a small portion of it, and today I'm going to disclose my early impressions of this beautiful upcoming island. Before I begin, however, I want to reiterate that this is only an early impression. Due to the day it dropped and the little time I had to play before releasing the video, this won't be a complete overview of Gateway. I will talk about what I experienced doing my short playthrough, but don't expect a definitive judgment from my part, so keep that in mind. In case you guys do want me to make a full review of it though, please make sure to let me know in the comments. So, Gateway. The long-expected map praised by the community that would save the game. Now that it's finally here, is it any good? Well, while I only explored a small portion of the entire island for what I know, and only had a few hours to do so, what I experienced was indeed good. In fact, I would go as far as to say that it has the potential of being the best map the Isle ever had. After over a dozen of absolutely terrible levels and reaching the apotheosis of horribleness with Spiro, Gateway is already leagues above the latter, and it's a major improvement in level design in comparison to old Isle maps. But let's talk about specifics. One thing that it's going to be apparent really quickly is how much more open the biomes are. A major problem Spiro and older maps had for the longest time was the extreme overabundance of vegetation. Literal oceans of trees covered almost the entire island, and on top of that, the jungles themselves were so dense that you either couldn't run forward for more than 5 seconds without being stopped by something, or straight up die from falling down a cliff that you couldn't see. Now in Gateway, those dense jungles still exist. And that's okay. That sort of environment has its place, especially in this map's context of being a tropical island. The core issue was its overuse, not necessarily the fact that it existed in the first place. And even then, from what I played until now, the jungles are still dense, you will still get some areas where you can't see a thing, but more often than not they are considerably more spacious than before, and most importantly, there's way less obstacles which can interrupt your momentum, and thank God there's no more hidden cliffs. At least in the east side of the map, that is. In addition to Gateway, on this stress test we could also experience the new weather system. And just like how we observed on some dev streams previously, the improvements are tangible. The thematic atmosphere it creates both visually and audibly is surprisingly well done. The calm and relaxing sound of the rain with a few thunderstorms here and there really enhances the vibe while playing. It adds to the realism which helps us immerse ourselves even more. The fog, especially in the morning, is at the right density where it is visible and it still does impair vision to some extent, but it's kept at a certain distance from the player which allows us to still be able to see moderately well, while at the same time it significantly reduces our range of vision, just not too much to the point that it's annoying. This part may be a bit more subjective than others, but I believe they struck a good balance between aesthetic and practicality. Alongside all of this also came the new migration mechanic, a new herbivore exclusive feature with the main purpose of guiding players to specific locations and promoting a more continuous circulation of players throughout the map. The idea behind it is honestly pretty decent, but from the little time I messed with it, there were some nuances that broke the flow a little bit. The UI was a bit confusing to understand. The way it points to the market location is solid, It moves smoothly and didn't lead me to any dead ends or untraversable obstacles, which is pretty good. However, the footprints is what was causing problems. I assume its purpose is to show an estimate of how far or close we are from the destination, but the way they would lighten up seemed completely random. I'm sure this is just forming experience for my part and there must be a pattern behind it, so I'm not too worried about it. At least it served its purpose well during my time in the stress test. During my travels, I also noticed that there are a lot more well-defined paths as well. Pretty much everywhere I went, I could easily find one and follow it with ease. The few that I followed thoroughly did take me to other biomes, but I'm not sure if that's applicable to all of them. They are not too numerous to the point that it feels like the map is a prehistoric highway though. There is a balance that is being respected even though there's more of them. Another neat aspect that I discovered due to the migration system actually, is how well the biomes are separated now. The transition is more gradual in the cases I experienced, and even when they are not in some areas, the devs found interesting ways to make the separation more believable, so to speak, giving views like this. The contrast is huge, but it feels natural even though it's due to human structures. A pretty subtle but smart move, I must say. There are still some pretty ugly biome divisions like the beach over here, but it gives me the impression that it's more of an unfinished area, so I wouldn't be surprised if this got revisited in the future. And speaking of human structures, they are now absolutely ginormous. The biodomes not only serve as a pretty reliable landmark, which is something the Isle maps desperately needed, but they are also large enough to contain inside of them a completely isolated biome of their own. Unfortunately, they are completely sealed off at the moment, so I couldn't explore what's behind those massive walls, but at the very least their presence alone not only serves to help players guiding themselves throughout the map more easily, it also gives a sense of awe and epicness to the surrounding landscape. Beyond being more open, I also noticed that there's a lot more flat terrain in comparison to Spiro. I frequently encountered open fields, big and small, and a lot of flattened areas. Perhaps this is the outcome of less forested biomes and I just couldn't notice before, but the contrast of the flat plains with the highly vertical mountains is pretty good to look at, and it's also less confusing to traverse. Actually, the entire map gives me a lot of V3 vibes, if I'm honest. It also feels like Gateway is what the devs wanted V3 to be a long time ago. It's possible that I'm alone on this one, but from what I played this week, I'm pretty confident that it's the case. Of course, this doesn't mean that the map is perfect. All maps have flaws, and this is no exception. The biomes are still not all that unique, there's still a lot of the same color palette present throughout the map, among some other small issues, but overall it is a huge step forward and a humongous improvement, and that is what we should be focusing on. Again, keep in mind that these were just my initial impressions about the map, but from what I experienced, I have to say that Gateway is pretty good. But how was your experience playing the new map? Do you think this is going to make the game more enjoyable? Let me know in the comments below. A huge thank you to my Patreon supporters for supporting the channel and the content I create. If you wanna join the ranks, you can do so for only $1 a month. The link will be in the description. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and opinions down below. Join our Discord server for memes and Pelirod stuff, and I hope to see you all next week.